Iraq, 1988. Under the code word Anfal, borrowed from the Quran, the Iraqi army conducts a massive military operation against the Kurdish population in the Iran-Iraq border region in northern Iraq. From February to August, thousands of Kurdish villages are leveled to the ground. An estimated 182,000 men and young women are deported and have since disappeared without a trace. Women with children and the elderly are kept in prisons for months to be later brought to so-called resettlement camps, fortified settlements where they lived under the control of the military until 1991. Today, many of the villages have been reconstructed, but tens of thousands of people still remain living in the camps. Meanwhile, those responsible for the Anfal operations have been arrested, but they remain silent as to the fate of the missing. Anfal is hanging over the affected regions like an air of doom. History is divided into before Anfal and after Anfal. The term Anfal has entered common parlance. Those who have disappeared are simply referred to as Anfals. Bewajini Anfal, Anfal women without men. This is the expression for the numerous women among the Anfal survivors whose husbands disappeared during the Anfal operations. Many have lost all of their male relatives. For more than 18 years, these women have been waiting for their husbands, sons, brothers, fathers, and daughters. Day after day, they relive Anfal. Day after day, they listen at the door. Day after day, they ask the same question: what happened to their loved ones? They live as though their lives are frozen in the past. Their grief sees no end. They're unable to start a new life. Women make up the majority among those remaining in the resettlement camps. The unknown fate of their vanished relatives renders their own lives uncertain. Their lives are in suspense. They keep waiting.
When the soldiers came, first they bombed our villages. Then they brought us to Topzawa. There they separated the men and women. They said to us, "Go over there, go to that room." My sister-in-law said, "Why should we go to that room? What happens there?" And she went on, "Look at my sister-in-law." She was referring to me. "She's about to have a baby." I gave birth that evening. It was raining. To cover my baby, I used my torn underskirt. My husband came to me and said, "Fatia, I am not so important, but you have to take care of this child." He said, "This is the day of judgment. You will not see me again." He said goodbye and left. A little later, the soldiers brought me his identity card. Then we traveled from morning until 11 at night to southern Iraq, to Nukra Salman. Before we got there, the driver said, "Mothers, go refresh yourselves. What comes next is terrible. You will not see any light anymore." For 1 month and 10 days, we received a glass of water and a piece of bread each day. The first 40 days, every night some of us died. Sometimes 10 of us, sometimes 12, sometimes 50 of us died. They left the dead bodies with us for 2 days and 2 nights. We were in Sangao when they came, and we ran away to Kadir Karam, but the troops and the collaborators were already there as well. They put the men on trucks. We said, "What are you doing with the men? Where are you bringing them?" They said, "We're bringing them to the police station. We will ask them 2 or 3 questions and release them." We have not seen them since. I am from Kaniubet. When the airplanes came and attacked our village, it was 9 o'clock in the morning. They bombed our village. They killed about 50 people. Many too were injured. The dead were buried instantly, but the injured were taken away. Some were brought to Bani Mird, and I, with others over there, to the Iraqi side. We stayed in a hospital in Kirkuk for 2 months. We were prisoners there. After 2 months, they brought us to the police station in Tikrit. My cousin and I stayed there for 6 to 8 months. We were together with Turkmen, Arab, and Kurdish women who were arrested during Anfal, all of us mixed together. I wasn't aware of anything. I didn't know our villages were destroyed, that our relatives were Anfal. I didn't know anything. Then we were brought to Samara, to the south. We spent a year and a month there. It was terrible. We were treated very badly. That there was Anfal in Kurdistan, that all the villages were destroyed. We weren't aware of any of this. I didn't know that my brother, my sisters, my husband, none of them were there anymore. My house and my children were not there anymore. All of them were gone. I didn't know anything. One day an officer came with someone who knew Kurdish. He said, "Tomorrow you can go home to your house and your children." I was so happy. I thought, now I'll go to my children, to my relatives, I'll go home. But my father, he knew. On the way he started to cry and said, "We don't have anybody left. They're all gone. Our brothers, our children, our village." And then we both cried. Then we came to my sister's house here in Smoot. It was midday. There was only my one child, the daughter you see here. I had 5 children. When we went to bed that night, it was 9 o'clock. My daughter cried. I asked her what's wrong, and she said, "Mother, all your children died in Nugra Salman. My 3 daughters and my son died. 4 of my children and my husband are gone." Nothing's been done for us since. It doesn't matter what we say. Whoever we go to, it leads us nowhere. No one responds at all. There's no solution to end our suffering. It will never end.
In the traditional family setting of rural Kurdish society, women are subordinate to men. There is no concept of a woman living without a male protector and breadwinner. The social status of Anfal women is not clear. They are alone, yet they are not widows. They must uphold the honor of their missing male relatives without enjoying the protection and provisions their men would have provided. They have to take complete responsibility for their own and their children's survival. Since 1999, they've been receiving a small pension from the Kurdish regional government. Gulala Karim works with Anfal women in the resettlement camp of Sumud. She's a member of the Kurdistan Regional Parliament and is an advocate for better assistance to Anfal women.
Whether we like it or not, these women grew up in our patriarchal and rural society. Before Anfal, it was prohibited for women to appear in public, prohibited for them to see a man outside their family, a guest, for example. After Anfal, women had to take on all the responsibility. On one hand, the rules and moral codes of our society bear down on them. On the other hand, they have to care for their family's survival. They get ground between these two millstones. For women in our history, this is a completely new situation.
Doctora Khalida is a physician. She works in a hospital in the camp of Sumud.
In our society, women love their home and their children. They depend on their husbands. Women don't work. Either their husbands or their sons work. But most of the women here don't have husbands or sons. Their husbands and children are Anfal. This has made the women fall into a deep depression.
من بحكمي إشكرني خم كده صالة لدوي رابرينو زور راستا وخولنا وجناني باشمعوي أنفالا.
I've been working with Anfal women for more than 10 years now. The number one problem of these women is they wait. Secondly, they can't make decisions. And third, due to their economic misery, they can't take care of their souls. They can't take care of their health. Only since they started receiving some pension money have they gradually started to think and talk about their psychological situation. But in all these years since Anfal, they were, first of all, overwhelmed by their economic situation. Thinking about how they were going to survive determined their whole lives.
Anfal completely destroyed the economic structure and social network of the affected regions. Many Anfal women live alone, scraping by with occasional jobs and begging. The traditional society looks with mistrust upon women who live alone and work. They're readily suspected of prostitution and can become victims of abuse. Projects like this bakery in Kifri, where Anfal women work together to support themselves, are rare exceptions.
In the name of all Anfal women, we demand that someone searches for the Anfal disappeared, that Saddam Hussein is taken away, and God takes revenge on him in our names, cutting him into small pieces, that he asserts the rights of all of our children who have been eaten by black dogs in Nugra Salman. My daughter here is witness. She said, "Mother, the children and the people who died in Nugra Salman were thrown in holes and black dogs came to eat them." Not only my children, thousands of Kurds were eaten by black dogs in Nugra Salman. They did terrible things to the people. They hurt the girls. All these beautiful girls were taken away. Nobody knows where. They sold them. Where are they?
The children of Anfal women have grown up in camps in temporary conditions. They've had hardly any access to education. Daughters suffer from the similar stigmatization as their mothers. Their fatherless childhood is considered a blot on their virtue. Many have difficulty finding a spouse. Like their mothers, these young women are caught up in the uncertainty. In the traditional culture, life without a man, life without a father, is equivalent to a life without joy and happiness. Anfal women rarely participate in social activities. They must continue to grieve. They must continue to wait.
بەڵێ ئەو کاتە من کاتی ئەوم بووم بخرێمە بەر خوێندن و
At the time this happened, I normally would have been going to school. My father and my mother would have been taking care of me. But then all this happened, and our lives were turned upside down. Now we have no future. Everybody, my father, his cousins, my uncle, my mother's brother, all of them are gone. In our village, there are no men left, except those who were children at that time and have grown up in the meantime. There are no other men. Now we demand to know whether or not they are alive. Then we also demand that those responsible experience the same as what they did to our fathers and brothers, or even worse, and not like they're treated now while they're in prison. We hear Saddam receives cigarettes and he's well dressed. That's no prison. First you do the most terrible things to the world, and then, as a prisoner, you receive cigarettes, good food, nice suits. How can that be? Then they should think about our future. We've all grown up with great deprivation. Our mother has raised us completely on her own. From those mountains over there, she carried wood on her back, and people paid her some 15 dinar a day. This is how we were raised. My mother didn't have a husband or son. And my mother, and not only her but thousands like her, has grown old. She can't take care for herself anymore. There should be a place for her, and for all others like her, where they will be taken care of, where nobody could send them away, where nobody could insult them. These are our demands.
With the fall of the Ba'ath regime, hope was revived among Anfal survivors that their relatives might return. But since then, it has become clear that Anfal victims will not be coming back. Yet the waiting goes on. Of more than 300 mass graves found throughout Iraq, up to now, only 3 have been excavated. Most Anfal survivors have received no word as to the fate of their relatives. They still have no graves to mourn. They keep waiting. They wait for certainty, for assistance, for justice. For the survivors, Anfal has not yet come to an end.